Hello and welcome. Happy Thursday Night Live, everybody.
Woo!
Hey, we're excited to be here. For those of you who are new to the group, we are Stephanie and David, your humble hosts, and really excited to come to you tonight, as we are every Thursday. But tonight's kind of special because we have the honor and privilege of featuring a special guest tonight, a recent member of our inner circle, as it's called, the Brilliant Life Blueprint. And Leah is just a fantastic story. And the reason we wanted to have her share her story with you is because we feel like it's going to resonate with a lot of people. Again, when we come to you every Thursday, we want to bring you content that's real, relevant, and relatable. And again, you're all here because you are looking for the guidance, support, and tools to transform your life, make something better of your future, and stop repeating your past. So again, we're going to jump right into it and bring Leah in just a moment. And we're just going to have a casual chat and have her share with you a little bit about where she was at before she met us and what her experience has been like in the inner circle. So we're really excited. If you're watching this as a replay, as always, we encourage you to comment as though we're live.
You beat me to it.
We do our utmost to circle back and make sure that we get your questions and comments answered. So we love the engagement. Any questions or thoughts you have, anything that resonates, drop it in the comments, drop some likes and loves. And with that said, please join us in welcoming to the stage, Leah.
Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. That was quite an introduction, and I'm flattered and honored.
Well, it's our pleasure. And of course, we chatted for a little bit before coming on. And again, it really is an honor and a pleasure to share your story. And of course, we try our best to feature our clients who are really winning with the program because, as many of you know, and as you know, Leah, Stephanie and I were there. In a very similar place to where you were and where a lot of other people watching are in terms of just feeling kind of lost, feeling frustrated, having struggled with a pattern of unhealthy relationships, lack of purpose, low self-esteem, trauma, and all the
well, let's let her share her story. So on that note, I would love to hear, where were you when you first heard about us, when you first found us?
Yeah, a little bit of a history of
yeah, I was in a really dark place. I was feeling quite hopeless, and on the heels, actually, several months really after a brutal breakup. It was yet another bad relationship. This one was a little bit different in that I really truly thought I was going to spend the rest of my life with this man. And he was very skilled at the passive aggressive and turning the poison onto me, so it rocked me back onto my heels. I didn't know which way to turn and was devastated, absolutely devastated. Trying to heal from that, counseling, just antidepressants, all of it. And the counseling is something I've been in and out of through my adult life. And it's usually on the heels of a bad breakup. And it has never kept me from repeating. It has never given me the strength internally. It hasn't given me that confidence that I've been lacking, that self-esteem that I'm still working on. And I know it will be it'll be work for the rest of my life in staying in tuned to, I don't know, I'm going to say enlightenment. It sounds a little airy-fairy, but it's true. There's been a lift to my spirit in so many ways through joining, the inner circle.
We love that. We love that. Now, you had mentioned too, Leah, that you had, aside from therapy, I think you had mentioned that you had actually spoken with another coach who was selling a program as well. How did that go?
So I'll tell you, I spent a lot of time just scrolling and searching and, trying to find self-help, because as a professional woman who, I'm not stupid. I've got intelligence. So how do you get into a relationship like this again? How do you get blindsided again? And it was embarrassing to ask for help. So, hiding behind a screen and looking that way. And I took a call with another relationship coach person. The call was really aggressive, and it left such a bitter taste in my mouth, where Stephanie will attest, when I first chatted with her, I was just like, I don't know about this. There are some predators out there. And I set up the call saying, I'm going to assume the best intentions here. And through talking with her, you could just tell how genuine she is. And watching the two of you, seeing some of this group, how real your stories are and how much it just paralleled my own in so many ways. And I had hope for the first time in 3 or 4 months. So it was, I'm going to cry because it really has meant that much to me. And then through doing the work, doing the modules, the Brilliant Life blueprint, it is the blueprint for a brilliant life. And you follow this and you work with it. It's life-changing. And not to say that my life is different in what I do for a living and all of that. That may change down the road, but for right now, it's what's inside that's so very different.
I love it.
And I'll say too, I mean, it's one of those things that's really frustrating as really genuine people, is to hear others that have had bad experiences with other coaches, because it puts up the defenses, where already when we are healing from a toxic relationship, our defenses are already way up there. Like our walls are really way up there. And we're already so afraid. Our walls are so high that we're in fear mode. We don't trust, for good reason. And so we finally decide to go and reach out for help. And then we meet someone like you met, a coach that was not genuine and real. And then it's like, oh, there we go. There's another person that's not genuine. And it reiterates that. And, for people like us, where the hardest thing for us is really just letting someone know, like, hey, we can help you. And then breaking through that. And then once they get to us, then we can start making things change right away. But we have to kind of deal with the other experiences they've had with other coaches to try to get them comfortable to actually start doing the work.
Yeah. And I know just through the inner circle, one of the more recent sessions, there was somebody who took literally years before they jumped in. I did it a lot quicker, and I thank God that I did. This other coach was just like, all right, well, I hate to see what's going to happen to you if you don't join, kind of a thing. It was just really distasteful. And that couldn't be further from who the two of you are. And I'm honored to be here.
Yeah. We're pleased. And it's unfortunate. We hear it all the time. And, I appreciate that. You want to go check on the daughter? Okay. We got a sick little one in the other room who's still up. So, but it's again, I have a lot of respect for people who try to get into the helping field, but something that Stephanie and I have found all too often, because we're in these circles, we know other coaches. We've actually had, surprisingly or not, a number of psychologists and therapists and counselors who themselves became our clients, because while they want to help, they don't have the direct personal experience. Now, of course, unhealthy romantic relationships is sort of the entry point to our world. But the principles that we teach lend themselves to healing and creating a balanced life where you can heal in all areas. And of course, a broken heart, low self-esteem, that affects every area of your life. But getting back to my point is that, when someone doesn't have that real life personal experience, and again, not to, throw shade at therapists, but a lot of the times they're just, reiterating what they read in their textbooks, and that's why, I think a lot of people sort of resonate with us. And once they take the time to, check out our content, watch our weekly lives in this, what we call the big group, they get to know us. And we're not for everybody. I certainly know I'm not everyone's cup of tea. I'm okay with that. But, whether people decide to work with us or find help elsewhere, we really recommend, working with a coach that you vibe with. you know, and maybe that's sort of an ambiguous, again, sort of airy fairy thing, but I think it's real.
Mhm.
I think it's
It
real.
is.
And that's why we consider our inner circle family, because it's not just like, oh, there's a bunch of clients, give us your money, we're going to churn through this. Like
Mhm.
we take a lot of time to work one-on-one. You know, I mean, you have
Oh,
access to us 7 days a week,
Mhm.
virtually 24 hours a day.
Absolutely. You're so accessible, and having the weekly calls, the weekly accountability calls with Stephanie is great. And it's it's just that extra support, that extra kind of, you got this, and tweaking and guiding really along the way. Coaching is the best way to put it. You're doing great things, and it really has helped. I'll tell you, one of the things that really was spectacular was the Psych K. And with that, you asked me, David, to start kind of taking note of some of the differences I saw before and after.
Mhm.
And it's the first time I've gone back to my list. I kind of got away from the list as things went on. But the words that came up again and again were lightness, confidence, okayness. Just
That's big.
being calm and okay with handling things so much better. Life is full of disappointments here and there. Just that's life. You have things that you might want and not get, and I found that acceptance. That's the other thing. Accepting life as it is, accepting myself as I am, but not limiting myself to as I am, knowing that there is more, which is, it's motivating.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I think that's so important too. And I bet a lot of people watching can sort of, they probably feel that kind of tug in their heart, like, oh, what would it be like to accept myself as I am and as I change? And that's what I say all the time, Leah. Once you heal that, do that inner work, right? A good life is not where everything just falls into your lap. It's where you level up. So you have that abiding self-love that you can count on. You don't enter into any relationships, romantic or otherwise, with a sense of neediness to fill a hole and find your other half. But again, you've been in the program for just a handful of weeks.
Well, that's what I was just going to
Yeah.
say is that, you've only been in for a few weeks. And I think a lot of people, we talk about this all the time with people, as they say, yeah, well, I've been doing this a really long time and it takes a really long time to heal. It's been years with a therapist and I've gotten a little bit of a breakthrough. Like, what would you say to someone who thinks it takes a really long time to start noticing changes?
That's baloney. It's baloney. You do need to put in the work. You do need to be open to changing your mindset and understanding that, your lifelong beliefs can be shackles holding you in a place that is not productive. Not productive. And it's not to say that I'm at this elevated level, but I have grown so much. And there is an acknowledgement of when I slip into, because you can slip back into bad habits. You can slip back into old ways of thinking if you aren't aware. So the program gives you so many different tools to be able to be more self-aware, be more, the other word that came up was connected. And it goes beyond being connected to yourself. It's this sense of being connected to the universe. It's a strange thing, but it's real.
Well, you're talking my language, and for those who know me, I tend to cruise the outer planets a little bit. I go down rabbit holes and study spiritual, concepts and the esoteric. But that's just it too. And I think a lot of people make the mistake. And I talked in an earlier training about, change versus transformation. Change is trying to make a new recipe out of old ingredients, right? But again, so many of us have tried that. right? They've gone to therapy and
Mhm.
say, okay, let me put all my ingredients. Here's some rotten eggs. Here's some,
Mhm.
and try to make something better out of that. And I don't know. I mean, for myself, when I went through that process, I felt like I was fooling myself. Like it's just not, sure, you can get some insight from looking at your shadow stuff, if you will, from a
Mhm.
different angle. But I think it's a mistake that people feel like their personality is carved in stone, right? You ever meet someone and within
Mhm.
5 minutes they tell you all about their problems? They wear it like a badge of honor. They
Mhm.
carry it like a calling card.
I could have been that person, you know.
Yeah. But if that's all you are and that's what you know,
Mhm.
I mean, that's what you're living. And I always give the example of like the glasses. You have these gray glasses on, you don't even realize they're on, and you start healing, and all of a sudden you're like, whoa, the colors, like this looks
Mhm.
so different than what I remembered it being. And so I think that's really
Yeah.
that realization of the possibility of what you can create instead of, oh, I am someone who's in toxic relationships. Oh, poor me. Like all these horrible things have happened to me.
Mhm.
Instead of being there where we can actually create, we can decide right now, I'm going to create something different. I don't have to do that anymore. I
Mhm.
experienced that and I give credit to that and I give, it's time and whatever. But I now can decide to create something different for yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And through the process, it's I don't want to say no, it's easy. It's easy when you have all of these tools that you're using and consistent with, and um, making that commitment to yourself above all else. It is transformative, and it's enlightening in so many ways.
I
I
love
mean,
it. I love it.
looking back at the stories, the stories you tell yourself about yourself, and then being able to turn the page and be like, okay, I learned from that, and thank you.
Thank you, Leah. And I can resonate with what you're saying too about it being easy. And a lot of people are probably hearing that like, what are you talking about? If it was easy, everybody would heal.
Hmm.
I don't know how you feel about it, but I mean, wouldn't you say that like for most people, they don't make a change until they realize they must change. And their fear of continuing life in these old painful patterns is greater than their fear of trying something new and
Hmm.
unknown. I mean, would you agree?
Exactly. Agreed.
Yeah. Well,
And I
credit
was
to
at
you
that
for
dark
explaining.
place. I was at that place where I knew that I could not go on. I was crying every day and just in despair. Finally found hope, and the tears would still come, but there was hope there, and there was a focus, and there was a transformation. And looking back at some of the things that would just gut me, they were they were they were not the same triggers. They were not the opening of the floodgates anymore. It's amazing being able to revisit those things now and not be a mess. It's having the confidence, having the security, having the knowledge that yeah, it's okay.
How did you see your life moving forward before you started doing all this work versus this?
Yeah, your sound is kind of cutting out a little bit, but how did I see my life moving forward before all of this? You know what? I don't think I did see my life moving forward. I was so stuck in the moment. And that's actually something that actually not stuck in the moment. I was stuck in the past because all of the pain I was feeling was the past and bringing that past right into the present moment. So now being more in the present moment, being more in the um, mindset of what a beautiful future I can have, and with the confidence that it will happen, and it is happening. Not it will happen, it is happening. And I don't know where it's going to be. I don't have that firm picture yet,
Mhm.
but there are parts of it that I feel, and it's coming together.
It's beautiful when you start to see it, and it gives you the opportunity to envision far beyond what you might have thought before.
Exactly.
And I think that's a beautiful place to be too. For myself, I used to agonize over knowing what was around the corner, trying to control outcomes. It led me to manipulating people and situations without even realizing I was doing it.
Mhm.
And it was out of fear. Now, granted, we're hardwired to recognize patterns for the sake of, basic self-preservation.
Mhm.
But, I think when you reach a point where you have that confidence that you spoke about, then it's like, okay, universe, show me what do you got? What do you got for me today?
Yeah.
And the memories of the past, I know there was a time where I wish I could just wipe my brain clean, but there's a different way to look at it. And it's not about erasing the memories. It's about cutting the painful emotional ties to those past memories. Because like you said a moment ago, right, you've been able to reframe, recontextualize those bad things.
Yeah.
Poke the bear, like stare them in the face, and they don't. I mean, would you agree they don't have the same negative emotional charge?
And it's funny you say poke the bear, because one of the things I wrote was, rereading letters used to really just tear my heart out, and I couldn't get through the letter. Now being able to go back and read them and not have that painful response. Also saying to myself, like, thoughts still pop into your head. That's just human nature. But being able to acknowledge those thoughts popping into your head, and then I question myself, saying, all right, am I pushing them away? Am I pushing those thoughts away? Am I denying it? And I just sat in silence for a moment and said, all right, bring it on, and dove right on into it, and realized it was like one of those light bulb moments. I've healed from that, and it's remarkable.
Thank you, Leah.
So would you say, how do you think this process has changed maybe other parts of your life? I mean, people come to us all the time really specifically looking for rediscovering who they are after toxic relationships, and then they start to notice other things that start happening. Have you noticed that for yourself? And if so, what have you noticed?
Yeah. So not worrying so much about what people think. My mom could be really, really critical. I used to get such anxiety about visiting because I knew she would have something snarky to say. And I didn't have that anxiety the last few times I've gone down there, and that's different. That's one little different thing. Not worrying about what people are saying or what people will think. Having that security of, what, who cares? And it's not to say that I'm not a caring person, and it's that I am what matters. My feeling okay with my life in whatever way it's going is what matters. And people's opinions really don't have any bearing on who I am as a person. They could be right, they could be wrong. It doesn't change who I am as a person. So that's another huge one. Those are some of them. And then having the confidence to put myself out there again. Being with somebody that you're, kind of attached at the hip with, your life gets limited in some ways. Social circles change. So getting out there, and my job is pretty isolating as well. So getting out there, I had signed up for a networking event, and I was actually anxious to go to it. I showed up a week early.
Oh, so that wasn't even tonight, huh?
It's next week.
That's so funny.
But,
you're ready to go.
I've done things like I've put myself in situations that I would kind of shy away from before because of the lack of confidence, the lack of understanding. You say it all the time, David, of how powerful we truly are. And I've got the power.
Yeah.
I love it. And I know that self-acceptance is huge. And of course, Leah, we know you're, a little bit more the detail of your backstory. I'm not going to, spill your beans here,
Yeah,
but
no,
I
that's all
think
right.
I think it's safe to say that coming from a place where you felt fundamentally not accepted by, people who should matter.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Being fat shamed, um, you know, being told that I was his 80-year-old mother was in better shape than I was. I mean, just real cruel things from somebody that you think is supposed to be your defender, your support, your partner, and to hear those kinds of things was just adding salt to the wounds. And being as open as I am, find your insecurities and then use them against you.
Mhm.
You know what? Anybody could. I was going to say anybody can use my insecurities. Those insecurities aren't there anymore.
Boom.
Wow.
And for anyone who's watching right now, I mean, how would that feel for you to notice that kind of shift? Because, I remember my ex, like, they know the buttons. Those people that are supposed to be your biggest supporters, your biggest allies, tend to be the ones who use that vulnerableness, and we lose that ability to be vulnerable as we go because we get so nervous about them using it against us. But we use that. We share it, they use it against us, then we feel terrible about ourselves, and then we're afraid to be vulnerable. But then when it comes to creating new relationships in the future, then we don't want to be vulnerable, but that's what a relationship is.
And I think part of the problem too is that when you lack confidence and self-esteem, you may not be as attuned to those red flags in relationships.
Yeah.
And when they do come up, you might be a little bit more likely to just kind of overlook them because of this unfulfilled need for love and acceptance, which of course you should be providing to yourself.
Or we just think those are how relationships are. Yeah. And that's a big thing too.
So, or you don't think you deserve it.
Well, 100%. Yeah. And sometimes that's the subconscious part. If that's all we've known, or that's what we feel in ourselves, then that's what we deserve. So if there was someone right now that is listening to this, and they're like, I've thought about it before about, working with David and Stephanie, and I just haven't really been sure.
Well, maybe they kind of resonate with your story, right?
Yeah.
That place where you've tried everything else, you've started to lose hope, you're frustrated, you're in despair on a daily basis, but you still, like yourself, they want more. They haven't lost hope completely. They're just looking for the right help. What would you say to someone who's maybe
I would say,
watching
don't hesitate. If you're on the fence, get off that fence and jump right on in. If you're in this large group, it's just scratching the surface of how deep and how authentic and genuine David and Stephanie are, and how helpful they are at really coaching you into a better life. And it's not a slow process. I don't know what the dates were, just a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago. And it's night and day. It really is night and day.
And you still got, thank you for saying that, Leah, too. And again, like, yes, it is quick, a lot of times, but 10 weeks with, in our inner circle, it's, it seems like a long time, but it can go by quickly. But again, what we try to impress upon people is that it's not about the time you have, it's about what you do with it. And granted, for anyone watching who's thinking about this isn't just a magic pill. Like Leah said, you have to do the work. You have to be willing to show up. Hopefully we didn't lose her off our feet here. But yeah, you got to show up and do the work. But with the right people in your corner, it's a lot of things can change very, very quickly. So, Leah, if you can still see us and hear us.
Oh, Leia's laptop battery just died. She's going to come back on.
Whoops. Yeah,
I'll get her a couple.
Technology. Okay, we've got the little one too. Well, we're actually right about at time.
We're right about at time, and what the last question we were going to ask was really just finding out what the last 2 cents, the last things that she wanted to share with us. And we're going to let Leah, come back and answer that after the video's over.
Yeah, post your comments and questions for us, for Leah as well.
So what did you guys, all of you think? We have a 4-year-old crying and not feeling well. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, this was, I loved that Leah was so open and honest and shared really her experience. Again, she's only been in the program a few weeks. She's got a bunch more time to go. Everyone's experience is different. But when we've always seen results from people who do the work during the program. Every single time that people go through the program and follow the program as prescribed, they see amazing, life-changing results. So if there's no other questions for us, if there's anyone that would like to, hop on a call with me and have any questions answered, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave a link in the comments for you to book the Essentials Toolkit. The Essentials Toolkit is a great starting point. For those of you who do not know, today's actually the anniversary of me writing my first book. It's been 5 years that I wrote my first book. And I'm going to put in the comments the link to the Essentials Toolkit, which is my book and workbook, so that you can actually start reading it right now, because it's going to be a digital copy. And it'll be a 45-minute session with me to be able to answer any questions. And if we are a good fit for each other, we can get you started in the program right away. So I see Leah come back. So let's bring her back on, since we got a few more minutes anyway. No biggie. So my last question was, and thank you for coming back on. My last question is really just, what are your last words that you'd like to share with anybody who's watching?
Like you just said with that 45-minute chat, do that chat, because I am convinced if you talk to Stephanie, you are going to jump right on in and make the decision to join the inner circle. And you will be supported not only by David and Stephanie, but by all of the other people in the inner circle. I can't tell you how supportive, and it's people who understand. Empathy only goes as far as life experiences, and you guys have lived it. So have your clients, the inner circle, your family, and we support each other. And it's just do it.
Love
it. Well, we love and appreciate you, Leah. We're glad that you're here with us. Everyone who's watching live and as a replay, drop some likes and loves in the comments for Leah. I think this is really powerful. And again, the reason we wanted to showcase her for you tonight is to let you know that it doesn't matter how long you've struggled. It doesn't matter what the cause of your pain and sadness and dysfunction is. With the right guidance, support, and tools, you can make real shifts. And again, we're not saying that you have to work with us, but the reality is we encourage you to invest the energy, the time, and the money. Create a budget for your self-care. Prioritize that. It's so important. And don't give up hope. Well, if it's not us, keep looking for someone that you really vibe with, because you're worth it. And I'm willing to bet that everyone watching, even if it's been a long time, they had a dream once of living a life of freedom where they could be themselves, be loved for who they are, and live life that's natural. And that we let go to feel like I said, and get back to living a life that you're going to be happy to wake up to.
So I'm just going to say one more time, if you can't find the link in the comments for the Essentials Toolkit, just comment the word book, and then make sure that you tag me so that I can see it, and I will share with you the link right there so that you can book that 45-minute session with me, get that copy of my book and my workbook, and get
on the 5-year anniversary.
The 5-year anniversary of
publishing.
May the 4th. May the 4th be with you.
Yes.
So
also with you.
And that's always what I feel like saying. Right? Well, thank you everybody for tuning in and hanging out with us, and thank you, Leah, for coming and sharing your heart and your experience with all of us. We really, really appreciate it. Again, we love seeing all of you live every Thursday night, and we love to keep bringing you all this great information. So have a wonderful week.
Till next time, everyone.
Bye.